right, so hello to everyone. My name is Alexa, for those of you who may not know me. If you have a block, grab a block handy. Alternatively, you can use a rolled up blanket. You're going to put it towards the top of your mat. So in this case, I'm going to demonstrate with the blanket so you can see the positioning. Create a little space about a palm's distance between your sits bones and the blanket or the block. And then gently bring yourself down onto your elbows and over the blanket or the block. You want to find it right below the lower ribs. Legs can then be extended long, or feel free to butterfly them. And if you have the playlist, we're going to get that started now before we move into this pose here. All right, so we'll start with the first song called Soul Merge. 3, 2, 1, play. Perfect. So setting up with that block or that blanket, finding that distance, and coming to lie over it, propping up the lower ribs. Try to avoid placing it in the absolute small of the back, but keeping it a little bit higher to more right below the shoulder blades. Arms can go long down by your side. Or they can rest on your stomach. We're going to start to bring ourselves into this space and into this body. So finding a space first of comfort enough that we can find stillness. Now take your awareness out and up. Exit the orbit all the way, go all the way up. Bring yourself, imagine you're standing on the moon. Have a look down at the earth. Notice the earth. See what you see in your mind's eye of the earth. Perhaps it's a drawing, an outline, or perhaps it's the colors or clouds. A picture we've seen taken from space. Notice the currents. Notice the colors. Notice the seeming peace. And now move yourself closer. Come down through the clouds and find your continent. Hold your continent in your mind's eye. Perhaps you trace the outline of it. Perhaps you see the countries embodied within it. Perhaps you notice simply the geography or topography. But try to see the whole of the continent. And once you have that continent firmly in your mind's eye, zoom in a little closer to your country. outline the country. Maybe notice the different provinces, states, territories, or counties. Maybe you notice the land and the water, mountains or the valleys. And now zoom in a little closer to your province or state or county or section of that country. Perhaps again you outline it or see the geographical features. Perhaps you see scenes from different places around it that you've been or encountered. Now zoom yourself in a little closer to your city and surrounding area. Start on the outskirts. Find a parameter. And in your mind's eye, trace around. Perhaps you see distinct buildings. Perhaps you're seeing less satellite and more map or grid. Perhaps you're actually walking down the streets of the city. Now bring yourself right onto your street, wherever you are right now. Imagine the building in front of you, standing in front of the front door. Picture that building, the entirety of it, perhaps the other occupants of it as well. And begin to make your way into that building and into the exact area, room you are in now. So whether you're in an apartment or a house or a gym, or anything else, begin to walk yourself through the broader space that you trod regularly and find yourself the door frame of the room you're currently in. Now look in and see yourself on the mat. Notice your body. Imagine looking down upon yourself. And now sit down on the mat into your body. Come into the position you are currently in your mind, and fully encompass this body. Notice the toes, the feet, the ankles, the calves and shins, the knees, the thighs, the hamstrings. Notice your hips, your waist, stomach, and back. Notice your ribs moving with every breath. Feel that movement. Notice the shoulders. Notice your arms, your wrists and hands and fingers. Notice your neck and your skull, your face. And now your breath. Bring awareness to all the parts of your body touching the ground and how the breath moves them subtly. We strive for stillness so often, and yet when we are so still, we can still feel this subtle movement, this gentle internal action of the heart beating and the breath moving in and out. Intricately linked. Throughout class, I will come back to guiding a count of breath. Well, please know that this does not have to be your exact count. Everyone breathes a little slower or faster, a little differently. And so finding a count within my guide that works for your body. On your next exhale, open the mouth and sigh it out. Inhale through the nose and exhale, sigh it out through the mouth again. One more time. In through the nose, exhale, sigh it out. And now close your mouth for your next exhale. Maintain that same ha-like sound. Keep that ha in and out through the nose now. Tapping into our ujjayi breath, feeling a little constriction in the back of the throat, our ocean breath. Sounds almost like a wave, and if someone else was in the room with you, or if your partner is there in the room with you or friend, they might hear you breathing. Keep attention to this breath throughout the entirety of class and let it itself be the mantra, be your focus, be your repetitive phrase. Let's begin to fine-tune this breath. So matching in the inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for an approximate 4. Hold. Exhale for an approximate 5. Keep on your breath, letting your exhale be slightly longer than your inhale. And if your legs are butterflied, slowly extend the legs one by one. Begin to press into the elbows and roll yourself off the blanket or block to one side, coming to your left or right. Remove the block or blanket to the side and gently roll back onto your back. Let the legs be long, let the arms be long. And tune in to your torso. Tune into how the spine is feeling, to how the chest is feeling. On your next inhale, draw both knees into the chest and give yourself a little hug. Perhaps bringing the head up and straightening out the spine, lengthening, stretching it out. Perhaps find a little rock from side to side, finding a very gentle counter fold to that back bend. In time, letting the head come down and bringing the hands around the right shin. Extend the left leg long and down to the mat. Draw the right knee in a little more to the right armpit. Begin to draw circles with the right ankle. And go the other direction. And then bring the foot back to stillness. And taking either just the right hand or both hands, start to rotate the right knee, moving it in circles, gently easing into the hip. And go the other direction. The circles can be as large or as small as you like. And bring the leg back to stillness. Hug the shin back in towards the armpit. Tuck the chin to lengthen the neck. And then taking a hold of the shin only in the right hand. Left hand can come to the left hip. So same hand, same side of the body. Begin to open the knee out to the side. So drawing open the body, moving the right knee away from the hips. One more breath here. And then slowly bring that right knee back to center. Take hold of it with the opposite hand and cross the knee over the body. Right arm can extend. And if you'd like, you can turn your head in the opposite direction of the leg. You may release tension anywhere. One more breath in this twist. And on your next inhale, gently bring that knee back into center. Extend the leg up towards the ceiling. Take hold of the back of the hamstrings or maybe all the way up on the calf. And flex the toes down towards your face to stretch out the back side of the body. Draw the leg a little farther in for 3 more deep breaths. As you draw the leg in, can you ensure that the sides of the body are equal lengths? Has your pelvis or hips twisted? Try to even that out. Hold a little longer for 3, 2, 1. Let the leg go long down on the mat. And take a moment to notice if there's any difference between the legs. Let the blood run down, back to the toes. And on your next inhale, draw the left knee into the chest. Begin to draw the knee down towards the left armpit, using your hands on your shins to help guide. And slowly begin to draw circles with the ankle. And go the other way. Come back to the breath and bring the ankle back to stillness. Draw the knee in a little bit closer. And then start to draw circles with the knee. Again, let the circles be as large or as small as you like, using both hands or one, but moving with control. So if you find you're rocking out of control on your pelvis, maybe shrink the circles. And go the other way. This is your movement, so being free with it as you like. And slowly draw the knee back into the chest towards the armpit. Take hold of the shin in the same side hand, so left hand to left shin. Bring the right hand to the right hip and start to open up like a book. So bringing the left knee down a little closer to the ground. Using your right hand to keep that right hip down. Find that inhale for 4. Hold at the top. And exhale for an approximate 5. Are you tensing in your right shoulder? In your left elbow? Last breath here. And on your next inhale, bring that knee back up to center. Take your time and take the right hand over the shin and cross the leg now over the body. Left hand might extend, the arm might extend out to the side, and maybe you turn your head. Find a gentle spinal twist. Don't crank. With every exhale, can you release a little deeper? One more breath. And slowly, when your next exhale comes, draw that left knee back into center. Extend the leg up towards the ceiling. flexing the toes down towards your face. Again, can you even out your sides of your body, the oblique area? Can you make sure that your hips haven't shifted? Perhaps the left hip needs to go back towards the back of your mat a little more. And then draw that leg forward. Send your breath up the leg, out the heel. One more breath. And when your next exhale comes, slowly release the leg with control down to the mat for the duration of the exhale. Take a moment, notice the legs. And then bend the knees, bring the kneecaps to point towards the ceiling. Bring the heels a little closer to your sits bones. Roll the shoulder blades under. Hands can be by your sides. And on your next inhale, begin to lift the hips up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, slowly roll the spine all the way down, notch by notch. Perhaps finding a little arch at the end. Inhale, roll, flatten the back, and then lift it all the way up, leading with the tailbone. Exhale to lower the spine, taking that full exhale to get down to the mat. Think about a cat-cow like movement with the spine. As you exhale, rounding the spine down to the mat. And as you inhale, lifting up the spine from the hips, find a little arch. Inhaling to lift, drawing the shoulders back even more, opening the heart. Exhaling, lowering that spine, rounding it out. Keep moving with your breath or in a rhythm that feels comfortable for your body. When you get to the top of each breath or bottom of each exhale, can you exhale a little more? Can you inhale a little more? Take that extra sip to really maximize the breath. Squeeze out the last little bit of that exhale. Inhale the last little bit you could possibly fit into your lungs. Just a few more rounds, slowly moving the spine. And the next time you return your spine to the mat, leave it there a moment. Press into the feet, move the hips to one side, and roll over to the right or left side of the body. Keep rolling over all the way to your stomach. If you do have a block handy, bring it forward between your hands. You can start with it on its highest setting in between the hands, completely optional. Bring your palms face down to the mat on either side of the block. Make sure your elbows are below your shoulders and then roll your shoulders back. So think about pinching a pencil between your shoulder blades, tops of the toes to the ground. Lengthen up through the spine, tuck the chin, finding a very active Sphinx pose. Come back to your breath. Imagine drawing the chest forward to the block or to the wall or door in front of you. Imagine a string pulling your chest between your arms, your elbows drawing back towards your legs. And imagine starting to find a bit of a back bend. Just imagine, don't actually go lifting and cranking the neck. But imagine that bend, that movement backwards is in the upper thoracic spine. So aiming for somewhere between the shoulders, a little higher. Think about the curve happening there rather than in your lower lumbar spine. Take it out of your low back. Keep breathing into this active sphinx. Press the tops of the toes into the mat, maybe the kneecaps lift. Hold for 3, for 2, and on 1, let your exhale lower your head. Release the active tension. Perhaps your head finds the block. Perhaps you have a little more room or want your neck a little more stretched, and you lower the block or remove it altogether, letting your shoulders, the stacking of the bone on bone, support you. Slowly press into the elbows and the hands to lift the head off the block. Move your hands out to the corners, the top corners of the mat. An option to stay here with the chest drawing forward, or if you'd like a greater spinal bend, extend through the arms. This can be quite a lot on the lower back, seal pose. We don't want pain or pinching. So if you are feeling any pain or pinching, please lower the elbows and return back to Sphinx. Also, if you are up in seal, draw the shoulders back, an option to tuck the head a little more. Find a place of stillness. And wherever you are, take one last exhale. Maybe open the mouth and sigh it out. And then slowly, if your arms are extended, bring the elbows back to the ground. Gently remove any props just out of the way and lower your right ear to the mat. Extend your arms out into a capital T and keeping your right ear to the mat. If you don't quite have the space, you can always cactus your arms. But then bring your left hand underneath your left shoulder, so the way you're facing. And then gently roll open onto your right shoulder. If your arms are cactus, this might be more intense. If your arm is outstretched, maybe walk it out a little step farther. Use your left hand to support you. And maybe you feel confident or comfortable enough to bend up your top leg with the knee pointing to the ceiling. Maybe that's a little too much. You can always leave it extended or tuck it behind your front foot. So find a space that you can stay. Perhaps you have really open shoulders and you lift your left arm up, pinch the shoulder blades a bit, or maybe just tuck it behind your sacrum. So lots of options to find comfort in this pose. But know that discomfort is okay. Come back to that breath, that approximate inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for an approximate 4. Hold. Exhale for an approximate 5. Find that longer exhale no matter your count. One more breath here. And slowly, if your left hand is behind you, return it with care below your left shoulder and find your way back onto your stomach. Maybe shake out the shoulders a little bit. Bring the right hand below the right shoulder. Extend the left arm out or cactus it according to your space. And slowly roll yourself onto that left shoulder. Again, option to bend up the leg or lift the top arm. We're going to be here for a little bit as we were on the other side. So finding that zone of comfort that you're in tonight, today. Maybe an hour ago you were feeling more awake or energized or ready for a stronger practice. And maybe when you entered practice, you weren't. We are different all the time. We have energy and mood and circumstances and situations and all of this that happens to us. And so we use the breath to regulate. Everything is interconnected. We put our attention, we put our emotions into our body, into our energy body, into our physical fascial body. And so by addressing one, we can begin to address the rest. So on those longer exhales, can you find an area to release tension in? 2 more deep breaths. Consciously expanding the stomach on the inhale as you exhale, sending it to an area of tension to release. If your arm is raised or behind your back, bring it down to the mat. If your leg is up, bring it down. And with control, gently, carefully, cautiously, kindly bring yourself back to your stomach. Find a little release, maybe moving the shoulders or even just turning the palms face up to the ceiling and letting the left cheek come to the mat this time. Bring your hands below your shoulders. Press yourself gently up. And we'll sink back to a child's pose. Knees can stay together for more rounding, or maybe you bring your knees a little wider for a bit more hip opening. Big toes touch wherever you're at. Sink the hips to the heels. Walk the hands out front and lower the chest to the mat. A couple of variations. If your knees are together, it always feels nice to bring the hands back by the feet. And if your seat doesn't quite hit your heels, you do have a block or a blanket to place in between. So give yourself the support that you need in this pose. Give yourself the comfort you need or want in this pose. If your hands are back by your feet, slowly bring them forward. And gently draw your body up to a tabletop position. If you have any prop, remove it. Keep it handy. From your tabletop position, walk your hands a little farther forward towards the front of the mat. Tuck under the toes just enough for support and bring the right knee up to the right wrist. Cross the foot, the ankle, over to the left wrist. So setting up for pigeon pose. Come to fingertips and take a moment to sit upright, to notice where you're at here. Find a bit of muscle and draw the right hip back into its socket. Draw the left hip forward into its socket. So finding an evenness in our hip bones, trying to align them to the front two corners of the mat. Scissoring, adding a little protection. Maybe you find in this scissoring, you actually can go a little deeper. So you walk that back leg back a smidgen. Maybe you find you're sitting really, really high on the right hip. And so propping a block or a pillow or a blanket below the hip for support. And slowly in time, try to take the duration of 2 full cycles of breath. So as the inhale comes, lower yourself for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold and exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Noticing if you need to stop. Noticing your limits. Maybe you stay on elbows. Maybe you use the block for support under the forehead again. Find a place that you can stay for a little bit. So feel about 10 to 15% of this pose. And by the end of it, you will probably feel a lot more. And while again, we aim for stillness, know that if something begins to hurt or pinch, please do move or come out of it. You do not have to be frozen here. Welcome, though, the discomfort. As all of our areas in life, our emotions, our situations, our energy, our situations, moods, everything we experience is intricately tied together. And in the hips and here in our IT band as well, that outer side of the thigh, you may be feeling it in. A very, very tight fascia, that connective tissue over the muscle. Put so much tension there. When we're stressed or anxious, we create that tension. And so if thoughts or feelings arise, let them. With every exhale, can you release a little more of that tension? With every exhale, can you soften a little deeper? With every exhale, can you notice a little more your breath? Come back to that guide, that mantra, that repetitive phrase, the inhale and the exhale. Take 2 more full, deep rounds of breath, expanding the stomach and the chest, and letting that wave back out. And after that final exhale, gently blinking open the eyes if they were closed, turning the palms to the ground and beginning to lift to elbows and then up onto your palms. Without moving the legs, just set the palms down steadily in front of you. Now tuck under the back toes and walk your left knee forward once, twice, maybe 3 times, relieving the pressure on that right leg. It's been held for quite a bit, and gently Release that right leg back. So feel free to come into a downward facing dog, lifting the hips high, or maybe just coming to all fours. Move some circles, take a few breaths of free movement, finding your expression to just release that right hip back out. And in time, either entering from downward facing dog or coming back to all fours, tuck under the toes, walk the hands a little farther forward, and draw the left knee to the left wrist. Cross the ankle over to the right wrist and start to walk the right leg back, bringing the knee to the ground. And find a moment to set yourself up. So maybe you're not fully extended. Take a look back, make sure that right leg is straight back, and scissor the hips. So fire up the muscles. Draw that left hip back and the right hip forward in its socket. Make it active. And maybe from this hello to our left hip, we can walk our right leg back a little bit more. But keeping the activeness before we do that. And over the next 2 full breaths, take your time to move a little lower into this pose, a little less active in this pose, a little more supported in this pose by coming onto elbows, maybe finding the block below your forehead, or having that block or pillow below your left hip for support. And maybe you even come all the way down with your chest over your leg, your forehead to the ground. And so finding your expression of pigeon on the opposite side. And remember, each side of the body is a little different. You might feel you have more room on this side, or maybe less room. And so listening to your body and supporting it through this pose. And if you do have a prop below your hip, option to leave it there through the entirety of this side, or maybe you do find you've created more space and so removing it halfway through. If you have any thoughts that come up, like to-dos, pop them into little clouds and let them float on by in your sky. You don't need to do them now. You need to be here right now. Nowhere else needs you. This is your time, your space to breathe, to go inside, to feel. And maybe all you're feeling is that IT band, and that's okay. Again, avoid that pain or pinching. And coming back to the breath. That ocean breath, where the exhale is a little longer than the inhale, tapping into our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. Every exhale, release a little more. Relax the cheeks and the forehead. And take 2 more full breaths in this pigeon pose. And once you've completed your second breath cycle, maybe lift onto your elbows and then lift yourself slowly onto your hands. Remove any blocks or props. Spread your fingers wide. Tuck under the back toes and start to walk that back leg forward once, maybe twice, maybe even 3 times, but relieve the pressure enough on the left hip where you can gently move it back. Again, option to find you freedom of movement here, perhaps sending the hips high to a downward facing dog or circling out the left hip. Just finding some kind of movement and release in that hip as you so feel. And if you are in downward facing dog, bring the knees down to the mat. If you're on tabletop, all together, find your way onto your sits bones. So sink back, bring your legs to one side and out front. And we're going to move into our final resting pose, Shavasana. If you do have a bolster or that rolled blanket, option to give yourself a little support below the knees, or feel free to cover yourself entirely in a blanket. Add your layers now, and let yourself sink down onto your back. Tuck the shoulder blades under. Let the palms face up to the ceiling. Let the feet flop out to the side. And let go completely. Imagine sandbags being put on you or in you, just feeling yourself weighed down. You're in absolute control here and freedom, but just feel that heaviness like you're sinking into the ground. You're fully supported and held. Please feel free to stay here in this Shavasana as long as you need or like. But if you are ready for some movement, I invite you to begin wiggling the fingers and the toes. Maybe rolling the head gently from side to side. And then coming to roll onto whichever side of the body you so desire. Take a full exhale on your side. And in time, find your way supported up to a tall seated position. I invite you to dim the eyes, or if you're comfortable, close them. And let the palms face down on your knees and the shoulders relax. Tune back into that ocean breath. And I invite you to follow along in your mind, and maybe with your hands, bringing the palms together at your third eye, at your forehead. May our thoughts be filled with presence, peace, and patience. And thumbs to your lips. May our words be filled with presence, with peace, and with patience. And thumbs to your chest, to your heart. May our actions be filled with presence, with peace, and with patience. Slowly lengthen the back of your head down towards the ground, bowing forward. And take a moment to thank yourself for taking this time to practice, to breathe, to stretch, and maybe to feel. Thank yourself for showing up. And now I thank you.